In a clip that has now gone viral, Lauren Boebert tried to blame the Biden administration for data that actually came from the Trump administration. Now, Lauren Boebert, the Republican congresswoman from Colorado, tried to make the argument that federal workers are abusing their remote working privileges by citing obsolete data from a leaked document from the Trump era.
You're not aware of any employee taking something that one would consider a vacation time and bringing their computer and maybe logging in just a portion of that time, or not at all? We have more than 25% of federal employees not logging into work. And they're teleworking.
She was making her point to the director of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, Karen Ahuja, who was appointed by the Biden administration.
Congresswoman, I do take issue with the characterization that 25% of individuals are not logging in.
It's in this leaked document right here that we just submitted into the record.
You're basing that from 2020, which was in the last administration, and I can't speak to that.
Now, this change of administration matters quite a bit because with each administration, there tends to be a lot of turnover. Sure, some people hang on to their jobs between administrations, but a lot of employees will take their leave with the old administration, and the new administration will hire or appoint replacements. That's why Boebert citing data from 3 years ago, which might not be considered a long time ago in some contexts, is incredibly misleading in this particular context. You're working with an entirely different pool of participants. The gaff made it look like the Trump staffers were less ethical workers than the Biden staffers, but overall, it made Boebert look incompetent at her job and unable to make a viable and supportive argument to her point.
When 9/11 happened, we didn't ban planes.
So that's embarrassing for her, but her Republican congressional colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene pulled a similar move recently. Greene cited an instance when two brothers, aged 18 and 20, accidentally lost their lives to fentanyl poisoning.
Fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death of young Americans ages 18 to 45. And this is unforgivable. The Biden administration is responsible for this, and they have blood on their hands because they refuse to secure our border.
Isn't she amazing? Oof. Ours, the reason she was very specific. I shouldn't digress probably. I've read. She was very specific recently, saying that a poor mother who lost 2 kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. Well, the interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration.
While it's already gross whenever politicians use personal tragedies to disingenuously further their agendas, it's even worse when those personal tragedies are misstated and misconstrued. The Biden administration had nothing to do with the deaths of these 2 boys. They died in July 2020 during the Trump administration. And to round out this trifecta, Republican Congressperson Matt Gaetz pulled a similar stunt when inquiring as to whether or not the U.S. provided weaponry to Ukraine's Azov battalion, a paramilitary force that Russia has accused of committing war crimes. The source Gaetz cited as support for his accusation was an investigative report from the Global Times. When Dr. Colin Kahl, the Secretary for Defense Policy, recognized the publication as Chinese, he responded, quote, "As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda at face value." Gaetz at that point had no choice but to agree with Dr. Kahl's position. Now, all 3 of them have fallen into the same trap. You would think that they would be a little bit more fastidious in their research, or that they'd have better staffers to fact-check everything. I mean, I understand that things can fall through the cracks sometimes and that mistakes can happen, even when you're consciously making every effort to do your due diligence. I do this kind of work. I get it. I'm always worried that I'm going to say the wrong thing or miscommunicate a point. But really, this is becoming a pattern. And that's especially egregious when we're talking about politics, because as we all know, there aren't just 2 sides to every story. There are multiple sides and perspectives that can be taken, and multiple angles that can be presented when discussing any one given topic. Even when taking pains to present those multiple sides, and even when attempting to eradicate or at least acknowledge bias, there will always be something that's missing from the final cut. Something else that could have been said, or another perspective that was never addressed. You have to have compassion for that when consuming media, because not to would almost be irrational. But what we're seeing here isn't that. This isn't news media. These aren't hot takes on YouTube or TikTok. These are elected federal officials deliberately misrepresenting facts in an effort to get a gotcha moment. Politics shouldn't be about the gotchas, even though so much of it often does come down to just that. I think that's why it's important that we call these moments out, because while I'm not sure that it will actually change the behavior of these politicians, maybe it will shed some light on how ineffective our current leadership is when they're trying harder to trap and trick professionals and experts in their fields rather than actually trying to resolve issues that are affecting everyday Americans. All right, that is it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like and subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks.